Hi everybody, it's Julie, Kansas City girl in a Colorado world. This is Flosstube number 59. Today is Tuesday, April 14th. And today is the first day in about 2 weeks that I have worn makeup like below this point of my face. I have to wear a mask at work, so I've just been doing like here up. So y'all are getting the full face today. What you're not getting is, I didn't do my hair. So I'm sorry, Erin. Don't judge me too harshly. I have so much to show you. First, it's just been a little bit of time since my last video. I'm not even sure exactly how long, maybe 3 weeks. March 26th was my last video. So yeah, about 3 weeks. So a lot of time has passed, but I've also just gotten so much done. I have finishes and I have lots and lots of FFOs. Yes, multiple FFOs. I have been working my usual, so I don't explicitly have more stitching time. Like, I'm not at home out of work. But you know, I'm not going anywhere on the weekends. I generally didn't anyway, but you know, sometimes we would go shopping or go to a brewery or something. So I'm still getting a lot of stitching done, even though I haven't been home more. And I've been able to stitch a little bit more at work too. And I think that's another reason I've gotten more done. But starting this coming week, I will be cutting back my hours a little bit at work. Still have a job and still thankful for that. But we're cutting back because we just, I mean, it's for the best because we're sitting at work like bored to tears. So anyway, I'll be home and have more time for stitching, reading, quilting, all of those fun hobbies. I haven't been quilting much at all. The last few weeks I've just been stitching. It's just I think what it is it's just easy, calming. I don't have to think too hard about it. You know, quilting requires a little bit of brain power, and I just haven't felt like it. So I'll get back to that, but it doesn't matter. All this to say, I've just been stitching a lot more. So then I kind of got on this roll of like finishing things. So I went and like I grabbed projects that I knew I could finish quickly because I wanted, once you get that finished, like you just want another one and another one, like it feels so good. So I did get a lot of finishes. And then I finished some things. I fully finished some things. So I have so much to show you. I'm not even sure where to start. Let's, maybe we should just start with the big one because, you know, I know some of you, you know, check out after a little while of the video, and that's fine. I really don't care. But this is a really, really big finish and a really big deal, so she deserves to be seen. So let's just show her right off the bat. I think in my last video, I told you guys that I was closing in on a finish on my Mirabilia Snow Queen. And I still had, I think in the last video, I still had like this front part of her dress to do. Well, I don't know about you guys, but once like the end is in sight on a project, I'm just super motivated to work on it. And so although I knew like I still had several days of stitching on her, it was like so close I could taste it. So I just like went gangbusters and finished the stitching on Snow Queen. And then I took a little break. I think I waited 4 or 5 days and I started to bead her. And she has a lot of beads. And so I had a feeling, I mean, I was prepared for the beading to take some time. I wasn't expecting, you know, to just spend an afternoon and be done. I knew it could, I thought maybe it would take a week or so. It ended up taking me 3 nights of stitching, which I think is pretty good. And one of those nights I don't think I did a lot. I think I did like an hour, hour and a half. And then the other 2 stitching sessions I was able to like really sit and devote more time. But I still feel like I beated her very quickly. It's like once I kind of got like the hang of it, I felt like I was flying. And of course, like putting the beads on, you know, it's so beautiful. It's coming to life before you. So that's very motivating to keep like frantically beating. So she's done. And now I need to find another project for snow, for my snow project. So unfortunately, due to the quarantine, I can't get a frame for her right now. So I mounted her onto this board just to keep her nice and neat. But she is done. This is an ironing board. It's like a padded ironing board. It's like the perfect size. She's about 16 by 18 inches. I measured her yesterday to see what size frame I would need. And I do apologize, I can't. She's so big that I can't see what you all are seeing right now. So I'm going to zoom in. So everything is as charted except for her hair. I changed her from a golden blonde to a redhead, but everything else is just as called for, all the beads and all of that. So the reindeer really came alive with beading. Again, I apologize. I cannot see what I'm doing right now. So if the angle's a little wonky, I'm sorry. I really cannot see it all. Wow. So just gonna try to do like a slow scroll. And then here's her back end. I loved how these ribbons came out. There's the bottom of her skirt. I think her hair came out really good. She's just so pretty. Let me zoom out so you can get the whole. The thing about Mirabilias is the pictures just can't do justice. They can't. I mean, you look at the picture and you're like, oh, that's so pretty. I want to stitch it. But seeing it in person with the sparkles and the beads is like 900 times more beautiful. I've seen a few like Mirabilias completed at my LNS. It's a stitching shop in Denver. Even ones I'm stitching myself, and then like just seeing them completed with all the beads and the bling, it makes me like want to go home and finish mine right away because like it's even prettier. So hopefully these beads are kind of showing up for you guys. And I'll try to take like some close-up pics. She doesn't have much Kreinik, but she has a lot of beads. And they're really just gorgeous. And these are the like so cool. There's these huge treasures on the reindeer here. Oh, I mean, just it's it's probably my biggest finish. Definitely my most like impressive finish, and I would desperately love to put her in a frame. But I can't get one right now. So she'll sit like this for a while. The only other thing I wanted to say about her, I changed her hair, and the only other thing I changed was on her face. I mostly did it just as called for, but I gave her more eyelashes. Just a little bit more. Oh, I did her skin 1/1, but the rest of her, and only because look, that's all the skin she had. That wasn't very much. The rest of her is just 2/2. After I finished her, I was like, okay, I kind of want to take a little break, but then I want to get back to the Miras. Like, this is very addictive. I have 4 Mirabilias as whips right now. I have Lady of the Flag, Cathedral Woods Goddess, Baker's Wife, and Lilith of Labrador. So I have 4 that are started. And I have a couple kitted up and ready to go. Oh, sorry, I just tapped you guys. I've been really wanting to stitch Andromeda. She's been calling to me, but we'll see. So that was by far my biggest, most impressive finish, if you couldn't tell. I started her 2 years ago. It was February of 2018. And as most of you are well aware, every time it snows, I get out Snow Queen. And the area of Colorado that I live in, which is the foothills right outside of Boulder, we get snow until about Mother's Day. So about mid-May. The first snow is in October. We don't get a ton of snow in like November, December, but we'll get some. And then January, February, March, April, snow. We got about a foot of snow yesterday. So plenty of opportunities to stitch on her because we had a lot of snow. And I was determined to finish her this year, but I thought like late this year, like with the next snow season, I would get her finished. And then I just kind of really started working on her and seeing a lot of progress. And I was like, you know, I think I can finish her this spring. Like, I think I can do this. And obviously I did. So there she is. I've got some other cool finishes here. So let me show you. I think I only have one thing that I finished but didn't have a chance to FFO yet. I think everything else has been FFO'd. So, and I think I finished this right after Snow Queen. This is the Witchy Stitcher Witchcrafts. This was definitely an impulse purchase. I had seen it and I wanted it. And then one of my local friends, Rachel, was like, I want to sell that for my birthday. And I was like, I could be convinced. So I started it and then I was like, oh, this is stitching up really quick. I can actually finish this. Like, I don't know why. I thought it was just going to be a little bigger. It's not big and it stitches up really fast. So it was perfect. I stitched it with all the called for colors, but I went a little crazier with the fabric and I used 28 count Picture This Plus Crystal Flapper, which was really just an extra piece. It was a remnant piece from my Mirabilia Baker's Wife. And I really love how it came out on this purple. I think it turned out amazing. I think this would fit in like a 5x7. But I'm going to do like a Vanna style flat fold. And I really wanted to do that yesterday. This was the only one I didn't get to. I was down in my craft cave yesterday doing finishing and I finished so many things, which I'm going to show you now. And this was the only one I didn't quite get to because I needed to re-watch Vanna's tutorial and I just didn't get to it. So, next video, that should be an FFO that you guys will be seeing. I hope. That's the plan. A little less exciting FFOs, but still cool. I had some Mill Hill Santas that I had completed the cross stitching, but I had not done the beading. And after I beaded my Mirabilia, I was just feeling like very confident about my beading abilities. So I beaded these little guys and then I just cut them out and put felt on them. So this is the Renaissance Santa series, which is 3 Santas. There is the Venice Santa. There is the Florence Santa. And then there is the Genoa Santa. And so I did all 3 of these. So just felt on the back, and I put a little ribbon on them. So here's one. Sorry, I'll hold him still, I promise. He didn't have very many beads, so the beading wasn't bad at all. And I think this one, his beard was charted the way I did it, and it was so cute that then I had to do the other 2 the same way, because the other 2 actually, yeah, so this one, his beard is this little loop-de-loop, but the other 2 have these like straight beard. I didn't think they were as cute. I mean, obviously it was intentional, but I just did their beards all the same way. So, because it's just so cute. If I did more Mill Hill Santas, I'd probably, again, do their beard that way. And then the last one is really cool. I love this one with the scales. And this one had more beads than the other ones. And I think, you know, more beads is never a bad thing. So I learned a little something when I was beading these. And I just want to tell you guys this, because at least the first few times I do something, I'm like a rule follower. I do it the way it's supposed to be done. So the first few Mill Hills I did the way they're supposed to be done. And then so with the Mill Hills, they come with 2 sizes of beads. There's their regular beads, and then their petite beads. The regular beads are attached with a half cross stitch, and so they sit sideways, like diagonal. And then the petite beads are supposed to be attached with a full cross stitch, and then they sit straight up and down. But it is such a pain in the ass to do a full cross stitch on a petite bead, because it's this teeny tiny little bead. So you go through, and then you have to go back through and twist it and turn it, and it's just awful. It's awful. And I did it that way the first few times I beaded something. And then this go round, I was like, you know what? Life's too short. Let's see how this looks if I just do a half cross stitch instead of a full cross stitch. And let me tell you, it looks fine. It looks fine. So, my advice to you, I'm trying to find where I can show you guys. My advice to you, if you're doing a Mill Hill, attach everything with a half cross stitch. It's fine. Okay, so this is a good example. So the green beads on his head are petites, and they should have been attached with a full cross so that they stand up straight, but I did a half cross, so they are sitting diagonal. The big red beads on the edge here are bigger, and they are supposed to be attached that way with a half cross. All of these white beads are petites and should have been a full cross, but I did a half cross, and they're sitting diagonal. I don't think it takes anything away from this. I think it looks fine. So that's my time-saving tip to you. If you're beading a Mill Hill, do it all with a half cross. It's fine. I will say the Mirabilia, my Snow Queen, she instructs you to attach all the beads with a half cross, and that's great, because then again the beading went really quickly because I didn't have to do a full cross. So I beaded and FFO'd my Santas. I also had this little kit from Mill Hill called I Love Coffee. And again, I had it stitched, but I hadn't beaded it. I had like all these like Mill Hills just sitting there like waiting to be beaded. So I beaded this one and put some felt on the back. It's very cute. And that's a gift for my sister, who might watch this. Sis, this is coming to you. I should clarify which sis. This is for Jessica. as part of her birthday present. My poor sister, her birthday was on Friday. So she had to have a quarantined birthday. Which probably sucks a lot for anybody who has a birthday in this time. And then this is just a real simple, like, little finish. This was a pattern I had shown 1 or 2 videos ago. It's by Good Morning Maui on Etsy, and it's a Golden Girls pattern. And so I just put this in a nice, simple 5x7 frame from Target. I dyed this fabric myself. What else do we have? So how to explain? I had gone through my whips a few months back, probably like early January, which every so often I do. I just go through all my whips and just kind of make sure that it's still like, I still want to stitch all of them. And I actually just went through them on Saturday or Sunday. And I culled 2 whips for reasons of I hated the fabric I had picked, and I will still stitch them someday, but they're going to be restarts. Anyway, back in January, I was looking through my whips and kind of like, you know, do I really love all these? Do I really want to stitch all these? And there's one that I had waffled on it before, but it kept making the cut, like, to stay in my whips. But definitely I had looked at it a few times and been like, And this time I was like, yeah, I'm not feeling this one. And I was talking to my friend Amy, Gable Stitcher, and I think we were actually like FaceTiming, and I was showing her some things and kind of asking her opinion. And I was like, you know, this one's, I like it. It's really cute. But I don't know. I'm not feeling it. And she was like, well, why don't you take the part you've already stitched and make it into like a little pillow? And I was like, oh, why didn't I think of that? Like, that is perfect, because now I don't feel guilty about the time I'd already spent on it, but I just didn't want to stitch the whole thing. And that pattern was Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery National Park's birthday. And I had stitched the center and then just never found the motivation to pick it up after that. And so when she gave me permission to just make it into a little pillow, I was like, yes. So that is what I did. So I didn't even have to do any extra stitching. Like, I had this stitched. This land was made for you and me. So I don't have a picture of it because I've already like tossed it, but it was this in the center, and then a scene here, a scene here, a scene here, and a scene here. So like 4 quadrants of like different national parks. And then at the very top, I think it said National Park Service. And then at the bottom, it said something like Bicentennial, something like that. So I made this into a little pillow, just a simple like white backing and a fuzzy trim. And I think this is just going to be like a nice like spring summer display. It's not like my favorite thing ever, but like it's fine. It's cute. And I stuffed it with pellets, little plastic pellets. Okay, I have 2 more FFOs, and I'm just like so excited about both of these. So by far my favorites. Let me find, oh, I don't have the original. It was a PDF, and I think I already tossed it, but that's fine. So the Primitive Hare Witch's Shadows. It was a series of 4 smalls. And she had them finished in little hoops, and they're really cute. And hers were stitched on like a grungy brown gold fabric. And I was inspired randomly to stitch mine on purple. And I'm just like absolutely obsessed with how they came out on the purple fabric. And then I'm really obsessed with how I finished them. The pattern calls for just DMC 310, and DMC Blanc. So just a black and white. And I felt like I wanted to do a little something something. So I used DMC Etoile. So I used the 310 and the Blanc Etoile for these. And they really came out so good. So I finished these in little tart pans. I got these tart pans at Michael's. They came with like a jute cord, so I just took that out and put a black ribbon. And then I did like a black pom-pom trim around. I love these. They came out so good. They're, like I said, there's 4 of them. The fabric, I hand dyed the fabric myself, and I wish I could recreate it because I just absolutely am obsessed with this fabric, and this was all I had. I just, the piece I dyed was just a tiny little piece, and I used it all stitching these 4. And the last one is this candelabra. So yeah, I think these are going to get like hung up on my wall in my craft room, and then maybe like at Halloween I'll put them out. I'm just like obsessed with these. I think they came out so good. So good. Didn't take long to stitch at all. So if these are attractive to you, like go to the Primitive Hare's Etsy and get them. She sells them as like a PDF. They stitched up really quick. And they look really cute in the hoops too. And I really strongly considered buying some hoops. But I had these tart pans, and that was like my first thought was like, I think these tart pans will work. They were just a smidge too small for the tart pan, and so that's why I did the trim around it, but I think that the trim was a good thing. One last look. I don't know if you can see the sparkle. You know, that DMC Etoile is a very, very subtle sparkle. So you may not see much shimmer going on, but it's there. Just a little bit. Just a little. Those were really fun to stitch because you could actually see progress. Okay. And then my last finish, this might be the first time in my life that I finished something and then FFO'd it the same day. So yesterday was always going to be like a day of FFO. And I'm sorry if I didn't explain, I forget, I use these like terms that I assume everybody knows, and some of you out there might be like, what is she talking about? FFO means a fully finished object. All it means is a cross stitch that you finished stitching and then you made it pretty. Like you framed it or you made it into a pillow or whatever, but like it's now done and ready to be displayed. And so yesterday was always going to be a day that I spent doing FFOs. And then I realized I was really close to a finish on this guy. So I hurried up and finished it, and then I FFO'd it yesterday. So this is Little House Needleworks, The Bookshelf. And this is an old chart. This is chart number 17. It looks like it's Ada, but it says on the back that it's 28 count. But it's charted all in DMCs. And I think it just looks a little flat that way. To me, this chart, it looks good. But I like overdyes for those subtle changes that it gives. And I'm really glad on this one that I switched to overdyes. So I actually used really random things. I had a bunch of like limited edition Gentle Arts, I think from a Stitchy box, and that's primarily what I used. A few of the colors are like standard colors, like I used Classic Colorworks Weeping Willow and English Ivy and Roasted Chestnut, but I did use a lot of limited edition. But everything I used was like in the spirit of the called for DMC. Like I pulled the DMC and then got something close to it. So nothing was like wacky here. And I really, really like the way this turned out. So I had this frame in my stash because, you know, you can't go shop for stuff right now. When I find something random, like a cute frame and it's cheap, I just like pick it up and tuck it away for like, maybe I'll use it someday. And this is not like a standard size cross stitch. And this frame was too long for it, but I thought it still, I was like, gosh, it looks good. Maybe I can put something down there. And so I did. I just put some ribbon down there. Again, just ribbon that I had in stash. And I think it looks really good. I think it came out great. I will zoom in so you can see. So, right, I'm very happy. I'm very happy. And I framed it really quickly too. The fabric is a 36 count Winter Moon, I think, by Zweigart. And that was, I put the last stitches in yesterday morning, and then I fully finished it. So usually I like to finish something and leave it laying around for a while before I get around to fully finishing it. All right, so that's all my finishes, right? Like, that's crazy. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then all the mill hills. You could call that 6, 7. If you want to count every one individually, it's a lot of finishes. And I'm not done yet. Like, I've got other things I'm trying to like bang out. So let's show some whips, things I didn't get finished. So I'm back at Prim Village, my stitch along I'm doing with Fat Quarter Shop. The pattern is by Lori Holt, Be in My Bonnet. And I'm a little bit behind because by today I should have finished this house. And I have not. But I've got a good start on it. So I think I'm going to try to finish that up this week. And then I have to get this next house done for next week. So I will try to get caught up on this Sal. I'm not terribly behind. But these little houses are more stitching than you think. They're about 1,000 stitches each. This is a 25 count oatmeal Lugana, which is the called for fabric, but it's charted that you would do over 2 on the 25 count. So this piece ends up being quite large. I'm doing 1/1, and it's this itty bitty petite thing. It's gonna be about 6 inches by 6 inches when I'm done. It's looking very, very cute. I love this fabric, and I really am enjoying stitching 1/1 on 25 count. And because it's a, you know, should be a big piece, it calls, you know, it should be like 12 inches by 12 inches. And so they'd sent a big piece of fabric, and obviously I only needed to use a little piece, so I have a lot left. So I'm going to do some other things like 1/1 on that 25 count because I love the tone and the modeling of this. It's similar to Vintage Country Mocha by Zweigart. So that in my plans to also like catch back up on that. I was also feeling a little bit guilty because I'm very behind on my Linen and Threads Mystery Sampler. April was released, and so this is where I should be. But I've only finished February, so I still need to do March, and then I need to do April. I'm doing this on 40 count mallow linen, which I got from 123 Stitch. And I'm using just one color. I'm doing this DMC variegation or variations, color variations, and the color is 4240. It's a blurple. It's looking very good on this fabric. I really like the look. But again, I've only got January and February done. So I've still got to get March, which March seemed like a small section. March is this part. It didn't seem like too much. And then this is April, which is like this crazy huge motif. I did, you know, on the January one, I had put some initials in. And then I was on the Facebook group and they said something like there was going to end up being like 22 sets of initials. And I was like, whoa, hold the phone. I was thinking like 10. So 22, I got to think about this. So I think what I'm going to do is stitch it without the initials and then at the very end decide what initials I want to use where. So I do have those January ones in, but I might rip them out. And then for February, I think there were 2 or 3. I did not put them in. This is gonna look really good when it's all done because it's just gonna be this huge Quaker. And I do need to get that caught up, but I don't know. I'm just not really motivated to like keep up with my sals right now, which is bad. And I do this every year. I start a sal or 2 or 3 and I'm doing really great. I do January, I do February, I do March, and then April it's like and then I never go back to it. And then 2 years later, I'm looking at this sal going, I should finish that. So I hope I will get that back out and maybe get caught up on it. We'll see. I'm behind on that one. I am also behind on my Ingleside Imaginarium sal, which I absolutely love. I'm just behind on it. I've got January and February done. I need to do March and April. I will say that sal is really nice because it's not intensive like stitching. It's a very like doable sal. I just need to do it. Hopefully I'll you know, I'm going to be home a few more days a week. So maybe I, you know, can devote more time to catching those up. What other whips do I have? Most of my whips were finishes, so I really don't have many. So after I had gotten some of these finishes, I was feeling really good, and I treated myself to a new start. And this was, I think this is my only Nashville start so far. It was the one I was most excited about. So it's Primitive Hare, Mermaid of Salem Bay. It's just so beautiful. And believe it or not, I think she's gonna stitch really quick. So I did get the linen that the Primitive Hare dyed for this pattern. And I got a lot of her tail done. So here's the linen. It's really pretty. It's got this cool ship on it. And here's where I'm at. I'm just like obsessed with this. It's absolutely gorgeous. And I was like going gangbusters on this girl. And then I decided to start beating my Mirabilia and then I couldn't stop. So I need to get back to this one though. And then my last whip is yesterday was the 13th and I am doing a stitch along all year long with Amy, Gables Stitcher. And she is Gables Stitcher on Instagram and on Flosstube. And she's my best stitchy friend. And we decided that we both are obsessed with Halloween patterns. And we had all these patterns kitted up. And I want to stitch that. I want to stitch that. Oh my God, did you see this? I want to stitch that. But then like we just weren't ever like getting to them or starting these patterns. And so we decided like, okay, here's what we're going to do. In 2020, on the 13th of every month, we're going to start a new like Halloween centric pattern. And so far so good. So this is my 4th Halloweenish start of the year. If you want to join us, because I know a lot of you love stitching Halloween, and it's really a very like open stitch along, like in terms of just jump in and participate if it's even vaguely Halloween. Like, and the hashtag we're using on Instagram is Stitch Halloween 13, and the 13 is the number like 13. So Stitch Halloween 13. And yesterday I started Not Forgotten Farm, Sisters of the Broom. Not Forgotten Farm, I love their patterns, but they always have like not a great picture on the front. And I like whenever someone's on Flosstube and they're showing one, like they always mention, they're like, this picture's not very good, like it looks better in real life. And that is true. Like these pictures do not do them justice. So I don't have a lot done, but it already looks like so much better even than this picture. I am doing this on my 40 count Picture This Plus in Meyer, and this is one I picked up when I went home to Kansas City for the Super Bowl parade, and I got to stop at Picture This Plus in Abilene, Kansas on the way home. And this was one of the fabrics that was a total impulse random buy. Like I was primarily just trying to buy neutrals, and this one just caught my eye, and it just, I kept going back to it, and I was like, I need it. I'll find something to stitch on it. It's just so pretty. So this was my start yesterday, and this pattern just calls for like 4 colors of DMC, and I love the way it's looking on this fabric. Definitely it was like a bold choice for this fabric, but I think it's looking really good. And it's gonna stitch up so fast. I mean, this was just like an hour and a half of stitching. So it's an impressive looking project, but it's not a lot of stitching. The motifs are really spread out, and none of them are very big. So it will stitch up really, really quick. So that's exciting. Okay, so those are my whips. So the only thing I have left to show you guys is just a little bit of haul. I've been trying to be good, you know, I'm trying to be mindful of money, and I am not spending as much money as I normally would, because I'm not going to Target for, you know, paper towels and buying $100 worth of stuff, you know, like you do every time you go to Target. I'm not going to Target, so I'm not buying stuff. So I think I'm doing good, but I do have some haul. So one thing I had to get, you know, I'd done a Market pre-order, but Blackbird doesn't, you can't pre-order for Market because you don't know what they're going to release. They don't tell you. And I had ordered a few Blackbird charts, and then I had thought, I don't know, I was like, I'll wait on the book, I'll probably get it, but you know, And the more I saw it, I was like, I need it. Yeah, I need it. So I broke down and got the Sewing Club book. If anybody is waffling on this book, get it. It is chock full of patterns. There are so many patterns in here. It's ridiculous. And they're all like manageable. There's a couple like good size ones, but then there's lots of like really small ones that you could stitch really quickly. It says 16 projects in here, and I'm just kind of obsessed with it, and I've decided I want to do every single thing in here. And now that's like, once I realized that, I was like, ooh, I gotta make this like into a challenge or something. So I'm kind of tossing around the idea of maybe doing a Stitch Mania around this book. I'm not sure yet. I've had a lot of finishes. I'm feeling good about my whip count. I don't want to do 16 new whips, new starts. Maybe I'll do like 5. I don't know. I like the idea of, I've heard a few people talk about doing a mania where I think Lindy Stitches was talking about this in her last video, where during the week you work on whips, or even just one whip, and just really like dedicate a lot of time to that whip. And then you treat yourself to a new start on the weekend. And if you do that, then you get like 4, maybe 5 new starts in May. And that sounds reasonable to me. So I think I might do that. I might like incorporate this somehow into my mania. But I do intend to stitch everything in this book. And I thought it would be kind of funny. Not funny, it would be kind of fun. I'm not the person that's going to do this, but if somebody out there was like, I'm going to stitch through this whole book, and just, you know, one by one, just stitch through the book. I think you could do it this year. Like you could finish it before the end of the year if you did that, because these pieces are not huge. But regardless, I'm definitely going to be stitching some stuff out of this book very, very, very soon. It's absolutely glorious. And then I also bought, oh, look, I found my Primitive Hare Witch's Shadows that I showed you guys earlier. So I did mine on this purple. This was the called for, and then the cute hoop finishes that she had. So go check that out on her Etsy if you want that. Okay, so then this pattern, I'd had it saved for a while, and I finally just was like, oh, I just need to buy that. Somehow I had never seen this before, and then I like randomly came across it a month ago, and I was like, I must have that. It's by Carriage House Sampling, and it's called Mary Margaret. And I just die because to me, this is Lydia Dietz from Beetlejuice. I know it's called Mary Margaret, but I'm going to call her Lydia. And once I saw this pattern and I saw Lydia Dietz, and I was like, I need that. So I didn't want the sewing club to travel alone. So I went ahead and grabbed Lydia Dietz. And then just a couple other things. I broke down and bought, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but Stitch from Stash is no more. It's no more. I want every single pattern that Night Spirit Studios on Etsy makes. I want every single pattern. I was feeling like I wanted to make a purchase from her and to support her, because she had sent out 2 freebies during the quarantine. They're both awesome. One is the self-isolating bat, and one is a really cute scene that says like, it's something that, is it I read past my bedtime, or just one more page or something. It's something with books. I want to stitch both of them. And so she released those 2 freebies, which is super cool. And I really wanted to buy some of her patterns. I want to buy all of them eventually. But I started with 2. So I got the Saintly Plague Doctor. And this one is like not a lot of stitching at all. So I think I could take this as like a lunch project and get it stitched up pretty fast. And then the other one I grabbed was just like, the second I saw this one, I just died. It's Mirrored Coffins. So beautiful. Somebody in the Stitchers Coven, it's a Facebook group I'm in, somebody did this as a smalls exchange, and they made this a biscornu, and it looked amazing. I love the way she framed it here as the circle. That's really cool. I'll have to think hard about how I want to finish it, because the biscornu was really cool. And then my last purchase, I see not a lot of haul. My last purchase is, I saw that Barbara Anna is doing a new stitch along, and it starts on May 1st, and it's a Halloween theme, and it's like, she's, you know, got a little teaser, and it's like a really cool like skeleton key. It looks really cute, and it doesn't look like it's too big. And Barbara Anna charts with DMC, which is nice. So I pre-ordered that from Creative Poppy. If you guys don't know about Creative Poppy, they have quite a lot of designers, and everything's a PDF download. And it's like legit distributor, but you get that instant gratification of they have quite a lot of designers on there. So check out Creative Poppy if you haven't yet. But they have all of Barbara Anna's patterns, and you can get instant PDF. So I got the stitch along, which I can't download any part of it until May 1st. And then while I was there, I had to grab another Barbara Anna pattern. So I grabbed this one. It's the Wounded Deer. I think it's just beautiful. And it's really small. It's really small. It should stitch up really, 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 really fast. It's 58 by 92 stitches. Tiny. Tiny. Oh, I just love the look of that. Okay, that's all my stitching stuff. Not bad. I really thought I would be much longer, so I'm very pleased that we're under an hour. Because we're under an hour, I want to do a little book talk. If you don't care to listen to the book talk, I totally don't mind at all. You are free to go. Thank you so much. If you want to hear about books, let's talk about some books. I have been super, super, super crappy on my reading this year. I wanted to believe with, like, especially with the quarantine stuff, even though I'm still going to work, I wanted to believe that I would just start like flying through books and I'd read so much, but I have not really been super in the reading spirit. I still read every day, always, but I just haven't been tearing through books like I did in other times of my life. So I don't know if it's just the stress of everything or whatever. I feel like even before the COVID stuff, I wasn't doing like exceptionally well on my reading goals. So I don't know. But despite that, I have read quite a bit since the last time I talked about books, because I think I skipped book talk in the last video. So I have a few books to talk about. There are, I have 4 books I want to talk to you about. I've read more than 4, but I'm not going to talk about a couple of them because they're just probably, I mean, they were just fluff reads, like some paranormal urban fantasy stuff, like whatever. This video is going to be long enough, so I just, whatever. We don't have to talk about those. I'm sorry if you're like, but I love paranormal urban fantasy and I want to talk about it. So, speaking of paranormal urban fantasy, I have a funny story about this first book. This book, the book I'm holding in my hand is the sequel. The first book I actually read as an ebook on my Kindle. So I had this book downloaded for probably like 10 years, like no lie. I downloaded it ages ago, and it's just one of those books that just, I never read. Like I would just pick something else and just scroll past it. I had it forever. And so I was like looking to start a new book on my Kindle, and I was like, I've had this book for so long, I just need to read it. And what I thought it was a really cheesy, like simple paranormal urban fantasy. The book I'm talking about is called Angelology. It's by Danielle Trussoni. This is the sequel, Angelopolis. But what I read was Angelology. So here's the thing. I don't know why, but just like I said, I downloaded it like 10 years ago. What I thought this book was, honest to God, I'm not making this up. I thought it was going to be a trashy paranormal urban fantasy where a girl was gonna, not a girl, like a woman, a young woman was, you know, probably like, maybe she's like a police detective or something like that. And she was somehow, you know, gonna get wrapped up with like this super hot, mysterious man. And it was gonna like turn out that he was like a fallen angel. Okay, that's what like I'm buckling in for. Like some trashy, like simple, you know, some steamy sex scenes, a quick read, like something I could like read real quick and blast through. I open the, you know, I start the book. It starts in a convent in upstate New York with a nun. And I'm like, oh, okay, like, is this nun gonna like break her vows and like have a steamy forbidden romance with an angel? Because I'm here for this. Okay, like this is gonna be good. So I'm like settling in. I'm a little conflicted that the nun is gonna like break her vows, but I love a forbidden romance. Y'all, no. I was there is no sex in this book at all. None. No, that's not true. There's like a little bit of like off-screen sex or something once, but not between the nun. So yeah, you know what it is? It's kind of like the Da Vinci Code. It's like a historical fiction and modern day like thriller. It is not a paranormal urban fantasy. So I had to kind of like readjust my expectations, but then I really enjoyed it. It was a good book. It wasn't what I thought it was gonna be. So in this book, it turns out angels are real. You get a lot of like backstory about how angels fell, and there's a group of angels that have been imprisoned, and part of this story is like modern day theologians. They're called angelologists, people who have studied the angels. They're trying to find this like religious relic artifact that is believed to be with these fallen angels and their imprisonment. And it's just kind of about their adventure in tracking down where this item is and trying to find the item. And in the meantime, there are forces working against them. There exist angels in modern day who do not want the angelologists to succeed. They want the relic for themselves. So two groups are trying to find the relic, and murder, mayhem, all that stuff. So part of the book is set in our time, although this book was written some time ago, so it's really like 1999, 2000, something like that. So part of it is set in modern, and then part of it is set during World War II, and then you get the historical like creation kind of information as well. I'm not religious. I don't believe in any of this. But the book was still fascinating and still really good. It was really well written, and it was really interesting. So if you're looking for more of like a historical fiction thriller kind of book, like I said, I haven't read the Da Vinci Code, but it seems like it's in that vein. And I think I saw somewhere a blurb where they were like, if you like the Da Vinci Code, like you'll like this. Oh yeah, it's on the back. A thrill ride best described as the Da Vinci Code meets Raiders of the Lost Ark. Okay. I love me some Indiana Jones. So, yeah, it's good. It's not what I thought it was, but it is good. It was a good book. So what I did learn, unfortunately, I'd already started reading it, I have the sequel, so I knew there was a sequel. I went to like mark it on Goodreads that I had, you know, finished reading it, and I find out that there should be a third book. This should be a trilogy. Apparently this book ends on a cliffhanger, and it's been like 8 years and the author has not released the next book. And I believe the fans are kind of like now giving up hope of ever getting a conclusion. So that kind of set me back a minute, and then I remembered I'm a huge Song of Ice and Fire fan. And we all know we ain't ever getting that last book, so, you know, whatever. Apparently this ends on a cliffhanger, and no idea if the third book's ever coming, but I'll probably read it eventually. This book is actually pretty short. It's only 300 pages. I feel like the first one was longer. It was an ebook, so I don't know exactly, but it took me a while to read. I don't think it was 300 pages. So that was a surprise. So that's why after that I did find some paranormal urban fantasy to scratch that itch. Okay, so then Andrea, Stitchy Bookworm on Instagram and Flosstube, and she needs to film a Flosstube update. She's home, the quarantine. She needs to film an update. Andrea, are you listening to me? No, she said she's going to try to film soon. So we always are buddy reading like something because it's fun. We randomly, I don't know, it was like late last summer maybe, that we were just chatting about books, and we realized we wanted to read like the same books, and we were like, let's read them together. And so we do. We read a book together, and then we finish it, and then we're like, what do you want to read next? Because we, on our bookshelves, like we have so many of the same books that we probably have at least like 15 to 20 options of books that we could both read in our personal collections. She works at Barnes and Noble. I have no excuse. Like, I don't. So, okay. So, the first thing we buddy read was Call Down the Hawk, which is a new spin-off series based on Maggie Stiefvater's Raven cycle. So the Raven Boys is a series of 4 books. Raven Boys, Dream Thieves, Blue Lily, Lily Blue, and The Raven King. And I have talked about those books before. I absolutely love that series. And Call Down the Hawk is a new spin-off with the main character being Ronan Lynch, who is one of the Raven Boys. And he's my favorite Raven Boy, so I was just so very excited about this new series. And this book was really good. It was really good. So one thing is, if you are a fan of the Raven Boys and in that series, this is going to feel very comfortable and very at home for you, but you're going to be a little disappointed that all of the gang's not all here. You know, Gansey and Blue aren't in the series. They're not in this book other than like off screen, kind of like there's like a little text message exchange. And then Adam is like, he's in it for like a minute, but not a lot. So, you know, like, I knew it was like its own thing and that it wasn't going to be like Raven Boys Part 2. But, you know, I was like, oh, I wanted more of them. So just heads up. But you get lots of Ronan, but you get new characters. And there is a new character who's introduced who gets just about as much book time as Ronan. So this is just, so Ronan Lynch is a dreamer. He can, when he falls asleep and enters his dreams, he can pull objects from his dreams and wake up with this object. So he has some crazy stuff he can do. and bring back from dreams. And sometimes he like has a nightmare and he brings back nightmares, and that's not good. But he is, his father was a dreamer and he thought he was the only one. And then in the Raven Boys series, he meets one other dreamer. And I think he still thinks like maybe it's just them. And in this series, we find out that there are many dreamers that exist around the world. But something is happening where dreamers are kind of disrupting the natural balance of things, and there could be something like really, really terrible coming that could be unleashed if dreamers aren't basically stopped. So there's a governmental like CIA kind of agency that's hunting down dreamers and killing them. And so this book is kind of Ronan figuring out that his life is in danger. He always knew he needed to keep it a secret what he was doing, because what he does is very valuable. Like he always knew he could be like kidnapped and used, where someone would, want him to go bring back certain things from his dreams, and that it could be manipulated. He's always known it needs to be a secret and that what he does is dangerous. But now he's starting to realize like just how much danger he's in, and he needs to team up with another dreamer to not get killed, basically. So the other character that's introduced, you do grow to, well, I grew to quite like her. So the thing about Maggie Stiefvater is she writes characters, and she writes them just so full. Like every character, even like the little minor nobodies, like just have so much personality and like distinct characteristics. She just writes people really, really well. And her writing is very like poetic. It's very pretty. I love her writing style. It's just, I think, just gorgeous. And I love the characters she writes. Some people did not care for the Raven cycle because they wanted more like action. So I think, some people don't like those books, but a lot of people like me really, really love those books. I will say that this book was, I felt like jam-packed with action. I felt like a lot of things happened in this book. So if that was like a complaint you had before and you want to give her another try, you might enjoy this series more. She does say that you can read this. I think it's going to be a trilogy. She says you can enjoy this trilogy without having read the Raven cycle, but I do not recommend that. Sure, you could pick it up and sort of follow along, but you're going to miss a lot. And I just don't know why you would do that. Like, just, you should read the other series. This is a continuation. I very much enjoyed it. And then Andrea and I, oh my God, I didn't realize like we buddy read like all of these books I'm showing you. She did not read Angelology with me. So then we picked up, we decided to buddy read Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. Oh, I should clarify. I forgot. Call Down the Hawk is young adult. It's a young adult book. Sorcery of Thorns is also young adult. And this book, I was surprised. I enjoyed it a lot. I think I expected to like it, but I also expected it to be kind of light and simple. But it wasn't. It was actually really, really good. It's a standalone. It's not a series. It's like a one and done. Very, very, very interesting magical system in this book. So in this book, there is the main protagonist is named Elizabeth, and she works for a library, and there are a few libraries in the kingdom, and they house like grimoires and magical books, books that need like high security because they could be dangerous. And so the libraries have guardians and keepers, and she kind of grows up from a baby in the library. A plot happens where someone is trying to steal grimoires from all the libraries. She gets wrapped up in it. There are like sorcerers who come to the library occasionally to like use the books, but they're looked on as like kind of evil, like bad, but also very, very powerful and feared. So sorcerers have like a high standing in society, but everybody hates them. So she has to overcome some prejudice to work with a sorcerer to like foil this plot to steal grimoires from the libraries. Of course, she falls in love with the sorcerer, you know, all of that. But it was just, it was a lot deeper than I thought. The magic system was really interesting. It was just a really, really good book. I'm a sucker for a book about books, so that certainly didn't hurt that it was set in the library and all that, but it was really good. Very atmospheric and fun. It was quick for us to read, although it's not a short book. It's 450 pages, but we read it really quickly. And Andrea really enjoyed it as well. So, and the love story was really good. It was a little bit of an enemies to lovers, but they weren't like sworn enemies, but like definitely, like I said, she had to get over some prejudice that she had, and the relationship was very fun to watch unfold. This was really good if you're looking for a young adult fantasy. And then the last book that Andrea and I read together. Actually, I lied. She's already read this book. She didn't read this with me, but because she'd already read it, but I talked to her about it the whole time I read it. So it's Wicked Saints by Emily Duncan. And the second book, Ruthless Gods, the sequel, just came out and I need to get it, but Barnes & Noble is closed. But I will pick it up eventually. So this is another young adult fantasy, but it's pretty dark. So this is, it's hard to explain. The main character, Nadia, is called a cleric. So she is blessed with magical abilities by the gods of her country. And there's something like 30 gods in her society. That's not the word I'm looking for, but in her culture. And so each god like bestows different gifts. So like there's the god of war and the goddess of shadows and like things like that. And so she can talk to the gods and like ask them, you know, like help me in this situation, and then like the god can make her like invisible or something like that. Her country is at war with another country. That country, they're considered like heathens, cursed. They don't believe in the gods of her culture, and they practice blood magic. So they're very powerful and able to do crazy magical things, but they do it through blood. And so the countries are at war. Nadia is some kind of like a little bit of like a chosen one. It's believed that she could be the one to like finally bring peace to her country. So she has to team up with someone from her enemy country who has like defected from their country. So she teams up with this guy, and they go like, they sneak in to the enemy country, and they're gonna like try to assassinate the king, and there's this whole plot. This book doesn't quite always go where you expect it to go. I don't want to spoil it for anybody who's interested in reading it. But I will say, like, what you think is going to happen is not necessarily what happens. But it's a very, there is still a love story there. It's another enemies to lovers. I love that trope. I love a good enemies to lovers. Always fun to watch that unfold. Just fun to watch, like, Nadia, like, come into her magic and begin to understand bigger things about the world, because she, you know, like I said, she thinks that this other magic is like heathen. It's wrong. But she finds herself like falling into this world and kind of having to question her beliefs and what she's been told and what she's believed to be true, and kind of realizing that that she may not have been told the truth her whole life, and what is she going to do with that information, and coming into her power, which I also love that trope of like a chosen one, you know, like breaking the chains of their preordained like destiny prophecy and, you know, making their own choice. So it was a really cool book. You can tell it's her first novel. Like, it starts off, it's not bad, but it starts off like it's a little choppy. It's a little clunky, I think is the word I would use. And then she kind of falls into a rhythm about like a third way through, and then it's just very good after that. It's not bad writing at all. It's just, I think you can just tell it's a debut novel, and so I'm really curious to read more from her, because she has, I mean, it's so good for a debut. I'm sure Ruthless Gods is going to be just her getting even better at her writing. The magic system was really cool. Like I said, unexpected things that you think you know how it's going to go and then it doesn't. A lot of like not knowing who to trust. I love that too. Like when you're right there with the protagonist and you're like, I want to trust this guy. I want them to fall in love, but like, is he like shady, like on some down low stuff? Like what? I don't know. You know, like, so that was fun too. 'Cause you're second guessing everything right along with her. And you're like, I'm falling for this dude right along with her, but is he really all he says? And again, it's good. It's good. It's really good. And I really want to read the next book. And I will eventually, but you know, I have plenty to read in the meantime. So that's all my book talk. Hopefully next time I can talk to you about some trashy paranormal urban fantasy. I feel like we talked about it a lot today, even though we didn't talk about any specifics. I have some recommendations if anybody's interested in paranormal urban fantasy. Let's just do that for a second. One series I really like is, so when paranormal urban fantasy is like Harlequin romance, like, but instead of historical, like that historical time period, it's like vampires, werewolves, like stuff like that. It's like Twilight for grown-ups, kind of in that vein. So one series that I really like is by Janine Frost, and it is the Night Huntress novels, although this is a spinoff. Here's one. These books are just like super, super fast reads and really fun. Vampires. I don't think there's werewolves in these books. But there's vampires, and they're very, it's very sexy. So Cat and Bones are the main characters. They're really funny. They're really clever. They're super, you know, they're fast reads. They're 350 pages. You can tear these up in a couple days. Really fun series. So if you're looking for a recommendation, I really like that series. Another series that I don't know if I have, like, sorry, I'm showing you my head. Oh, I do have it here. I was trying to see where I am at alphabetically. So another series that I really, really like, paranormal urban fantasy, is Patricia Briggs' Mercy Thompson series. I'm like on book 14. No, I lied. This is 4. I'm on book 7. This series is also very good. This is a werewolf series. Also sexy and also fun. Easy reads. So this genre generally involves like some kind of mystery. So like another, like a really good example of this genre that you all would probably have heard of and know is True Blood, the Sookie Stackhouse books. Those, you know, that was a series of like 10 or 11 books, which was then made into the HBO show. The books are a little different than the show, but you know, if you watch True Blood, you know about like the vampires and the werewolves, and you know, Sookie was always like solving some kind of mystery. So they're like light, easy, fun mystery books with some sex thrown in. So, and I feel like there was one more. I don't know. We'll just do those 2 for now. There are more. I definitely have more I could talk about, but there's a recommendation. There's a recommendation for you guys if you're looking to explore that genre. Okay, that's enough. I didn't even mean to talk about that, so we've just been like rambling now. So I am going to leave. I'm very thirsty. Thank you for watching if you've made it this far. And I will see you next time. Thank you. Everybody stay safe. Goodbye.